Well, here we are at the end of the Triduum, and I wanted to offer a little bit more in-depth reflection as we come to the end of the Triduum on this Holy Saturday and prepare for the great light of Christ to come at the Easter Vigil. Over the last couple of days, we have gone from Jesus giving himself in the Last Supper, and that whole mystery of the Last Supper would be realized the next day at Calvary, and which is what we spent yesterday reflecting on, the passion of Jesus. And before he died, he instituted the priesthood. He gave us the sacrament of the Eucharist. And then during the height of his passion, he gives us the great gift of his mother. And these are things that we should always cherish, because everything in our faith points to the cross. Even St. Paul says that about our baptism. He says, do you who are baptized not know that you are baptized into his death? So we look to the cross to connect every aspect of our Christian life. Fulton Sheen called the cross the Annunciation, the second Annunciation, the Annunciation of the Church, because that's where the Church was born. And so it's a beautiful reflection for us, is to see all the gifts that Jesus gave to us, and in the way in which he gave them, through a sacrificial love. Now, it was the one final act that Jesus came. That was his purpose. It wasn't to perform tons of miracles. He could have redeemed us by snapping his fingers. But what did he do? Is he became the sacrificial lamb, the lamb that Isaac cried out in the Old Testament when Abraham was about to sacrifice him. And he says, Father, here's the wood for the sacrifice, but where's the lamb? Well, now here we have, as St. John the Baptist would say in the beginning of the Gospel of John, behold the Lamb of God. And now on the cross, that lamb is sacrificed at the time of the Passover. The pure, the unblemished lamb, and he was declared pure by Pilate and others. And so, what a beautiful reflection that we have are the gifts that Jesus gives us at his greatest moment of suffering. He gives us his Blessed Mother to be our mother, and he also then, as he dies and his heart is pierced, we have the blood and the water which gush forth from the heart, from his sacred heart. And as we get that beautiful image of the Divine Mercy, of the white rays and the red rays coming out from Jesus' heart, representing the purifying waters of baptism and the life-giving blood he gives us in the Holy Eucharist. And that's why it's a fitting day that the novena to the divine, leading up to the Divine Mercy, begins on Good Friday. And maybe you're saying, oh, I totally forgot about that. Well, I'd say begin it today and simply end on Divine Mercy Sunday. Jesus is not going to hold that against you. So some beautiful things for us and powerful things to reflect upon, that Jesus reveals on the cross ultimately what true love is. It is love that is sacrificial love. And that is how he gave us the great gift of his divine mercy. That is how we received redemption. And when he gave his mother to John, who was unnamed because he represented the church, he now says, your life is now going to begin from the cross, and it will lead to the cross as mine did. Just as Jesus' life as an infant began with the shadow of the cross, when he received not just gold and frankincense, but myrrh, pointing all the way to the cross. And now that myrrh on this Holy Saturday is put over the body of Jesus as he is in the tomb. And then we ask ourselves, well, what is Jesus doing? What is he doing during this time of great silence? This is where Jesus, as the church teaches and as we say in the Creed, he descended into hell. And we heard a beautiful reflection last night here at the community of St. John. You can see the church behind me. It was an ancient homily, and it talked about how Jesus would go and search. He searched for Adam and Eve. He went all the way back to the beginning, the new Adam, and goes before the first one, who was created in his image and likeness, and who sinned and distorted that. And Jesus now restores that image and says, this is what I call the new humanity to be. Not just a descendant of the human line as you were responsible for, but now I have started a new line, and I want you a part of that. So just imagine what it would have been like for Jesus to go back and to search for Adam and Eve, and what it would have been for them to have seen what we announced tonight at the vigil. Their great fault. But what do we say on the Easter vigil? Oh, happy fault that brought forth for us so great a Redeemer. Imagine what Adam and Eve would have been experiencing when they saw him. My sin brought, yes, it brought darkness, it brought separation from God. But the mystery of mysteries is God's redemptive, his merciful love. That had they not sinned, as St. Thomas would say, he couldn't have shown his mercy. A mystery. That's why the church said, oh, happy fault that brought forth such a Redeemer. What would Adam have said? When everything that we experienced all started with him and his wife. So a beautiful reflection of Jesus seeking out as he descends into hell those all the way from the beginning who separated themselves from him, who abandoned God, to say, I have not abandoned you. And when we look at our own life and how this can apply to us, Jesus's descent into hell is something that we experience, could be on a daily basis. When we receive Jesus in Holy Communion, that life-giving love that he gives us from the cross, that flows all the way to every altar, because the words that are used to describe it says the blood and water that flowed forth from Jesus' heart, in the Latin, the words refer to an ongoing action that continues today. It continues to flow today to us from every single altar. That's why when the priest says the words of institution, what does he do? He picks up the cross and he planting it, as Fulton Sheen says, he plants it on the altar. And that reality of Calvary is present right here, right now, in your parish church. And so when we receive communion, what do? We should invite Jesus. Jesus, descend into the hell that is in my heart. And that may say, wow, that sounds really harsh. This is the hell of my heart. Hell is the place where God isn't. Where we've separated ourselves from God. Those places, those corners of our heart that we haven't welcomed God into. And we say, Lord, descend into the depths of my heart. Those areas where my selfishness and my pride and my sins have made a place of hell. Descend. Bring your light. Bring your love. Bring your truth. Bring your tenderness. Bring everything that will make my life never the same. And so that's a beautiful reflection when we go into this Holy Saturday. Of course, it's a beautiful day around, but here I am where there's great silence. And there's that silence in the world as the body of Jesus rested in the tomb. And so, may we seek that same silence. Every day, find some silence. And invite Jesus to come in, especially at Holy Communion, and be that light that we will celebrate this evening of the Easter Vigil amidst the darkness. That light will shine, and all of our attention will go to that little candle. And then from there, we light everybody else's candles in the church, representing the light of Jesus was meant to then replicate, to shine forth across the world. And that's why I said it's better for you that I go, so that I can then send you my Spirit, so that I can be everywhere. I can be in Princeville, Illinois. I can be in Florida. I can be in Spain, in Russia, in China, in Syria. So this is the great beauty of the church, and what an exciting anticipation we have as we prepare now for the Easter Vigil. So I pray that this evening is one that is a true, not just a true joy in that it's Easter we get to celebrate, but a true sort of a deep-hearted sigh of thank you, Jesus. Thank you. May this Easter be different from all other ones, because we live in a time where this mystery of the resurrection is desperately needed. Desperately, desperately needed. The power of Jesus is needed in this world now more than ever. You know, in this Triduum, we experience what? The first pope go from, being made a priest and a bishop, the fullness of holy orders at the Last Supper, and then saying, even if everybody denies you, I will never deny you, to what? Then within hours, he falls asleep when Jesus says, watch and pray. He says, could you not keep 1 hour with me? And because he slept, what happened when the crisis came and he was awakened and he wasn't praying? He responded with what? The sword, with violence. Today's world would be, when there's crisis, what's our first reaction? Oh, we have to respond with violence. We have to drop bombs. We have to do this. We have to do that. Who turns to Christ? Because what did Christ do in that? Peter, according to the world, would have seemed vindicated. His master's being led away, the greatest of injustices. And what does Peter do? He tries to stop it. Jesus turns and says, that's enough. And he heals even the enemy who was arresting him. This is not how the world thinks. And imagine Peter's great regret, because then he would go on and he would deny Jesus 3 times. And this Holy Saturday, you can imagine Peter literally just weeping and weeping, because before he left Jesus, he had one final chance to receive his mercy. Because what happened? He looked at Jesus and Jesus looked at him, and their gaze caught each other. As Fulton Sheen said, Judas caught Jesus' lips, Peter caught his eyes. And that was the moment of Peter's redemption. But the language that's used that speaks of Jesus, that Peter would have just covered himself, having wept and wept and wept, even right now. All because he didn't keep the hour, because he didn't pray. This is what happens when the world doesn't keep watch with Christ. When we don't pray, we boast in the strength of men. We can overpower. What does St. Paul says? What did he say? He says, the weakness of God is infinitely stronger than the strength of men. We don't even give God a chance. So, what a great example and paradigm that St. Peter is for us. Because, gosh, his story is like our story. And we all have a Simon nature, we have a Peter nature. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to Easter. So let us revisit these mysteries of the last couple of days and prepare our hearts now to really enter and to celebrate the great light that has come at a time when the world needs it most. And let this be the beginning of our cooperation and our mission to be with Jesus.